Nobody warns men about what actually happens inside a woman's body the second it's over. Not the physical part, the psychological one. There are 5 emotional states she moves through in that exact moment, and she's never mapped them out for you. Until now. And the single behavior that cancels everything, I'll get to it, because it nearly broke something important in my own life. It is what she wishes you understood. It was never about the act itself. It was always about the aftermath. The space between the last second and the next breath. That space is where she decides everything. Asterisco point number 5, the unraveling, when her armor falls apart and she didn't ask it to. There's a moment most men completely miss, not because they're careless but because from the outside, it looks like nothing. But inside her, everything just shifted. The second intimacy reaches its peak, something in her nervous system releases a grip she's been holding, sometimes for days, sometimes for years. Every layer of composure she walked into that room wearing just dissolves. Instantly. Without warning. Without her choosing it. Her body processes one signal before her brain catches up. He was completely present for this, and that signal doesn't knock politely. It floods in. Women describe this as suddenly feeling see-through. Not vulnerable in a dangerous way. Vulnerable in a way that feels terrifyingly real. Like standing in a room with no ceiling and realizing you don't actually mind. Here's the part that matters, she didn't decide to feel that. Her body decided for her. And for approximately 5 seconds, every wall she's built, the self-protection, the composure, the careful distance, just isn't there anymore. There was a moment, still warm, the weight of closeness still there, and out of nowhere something behind the chest just released. There was no reason for it. Everything was fine. Everything was actually perfect. And that's exactly why it hit so hard. Because the body knows the difference between something ordinary and something that actually matters. And when it's the second one, it doesn't ask for permission to react. It had no idea. It probably looked like stillness from where he was. But she was standing completely exposed in a moment she never planned for. And what most men do right then, eyes closed, drifting, pulling inward, is exactly the wrong thing. Because she just became the most reachable she'll be all night. And if no one's there to meet her in that moment, her body quietly files it away as a near miss. Stay in it. Eyes open. Present. You don't need words. You just need to not disappear. If you're there when the unraveling happens, she'll carry that for a long time. Because right on the other side of the unraveling comes something even more intense. Asterisco point number 4, the read, she's already studying you and you haven't even exhaled yet. Before the moment has even fully passed, she's already running an assessment. Not consciously, her nervous system initiates it automatically. Her eyes move to your face. Her attention sharpens. And she's searching for one specific answer to one specific question. Asterisco, does he still want to be here, not 5 minutes ago right now? Now that the tension has lifted. Now that the chase is done. Now that there's no more anticipation pulling him forward. Is he still looking at her like she matters? Or did the energy change the second it was over? This read happens fast. 5 seconds, maybe 10. And the results she comes back with shape how she feels about the entire experience. It is what was actually happening internally in a moment that looked completely calm from the outside, heart already speeding back up. Not from what just happened. From watching for what comes next. Searching his face for evidence. Not proof of love. Just proof of continued presence. Is still here? Is still choosing this? Or already somewhere else in his mind? That's the fear underneath the scan. That maybe the most appealing part was the wanting, and now that it's done, she's watching the wanting leave his eyes in real time. This is what women discuss with their close friends in specific detail. Not what happened. What his face did after. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Don't close your eyes. Don't stare at the ceiling. Look at her. Not a performance of looking, actually look. Like she's the reason for the moment, not just the location of it. That look is the only thing she needed the scan to find. And if the first 2 points are about what she feels, this next one is about what she fears. And it's the one she'll almost never say out loud. Asterisco point number 3. The shadow, fear arriving inside a warm moment. Here's the psychological twist that almost no man ever learns, and women rarely explain it, partly because it embarrasses them, partly because they know how irrational it sounds. Right there in the warmth of the moment, still close, still wrapped in what just happened, her brain does something strange. It skips forward. Not to tomorrow morning. Not to next week. It skips directly to the version of this that ends. The version where he slowly pulls away. Where the closeness that exists right now starts to thin. Where what just happened becomes the high water mark of something that's quietly declining. She doesn't choose to think this. Her nervous system generates it automatically. Scientists call it anticipatory loss. She's grieving something that hasn't happened yet, inside a moment that's actually going well. Everything had been genuine. Nothing felt forced. And then something cold moved across the inside of the chest, not from anything he did but from realizing it was possible to lose this. That the exact amount of closeness that existed in that moment was exactly enough to make its absence devastating. So the mind preemptively braced. Still connected. Still close. Already afraid. It's irrational. She knows it's irrational. Knowing it doesn't stop her body from running the fear response anyway. And the men who understand this don't try to fix it with words. They fix it with continued presence. By not going anywhere. By making the fear a liar just by staying exactly where they are. If these first 3 points just reframed how you understand what she's carrying in that moment, tap like right now and subscribe. Because what's coming in points 2 and 1, I almost cut them entirely. Todo personal. Keep watching. Asterisco point number 2, the anchor. When her body makes a decision her logic didn't approve, this is the most counterintuitive thing about this specific moment in intimacy, and it's the one women almost never articulate clearly even to each other. When that moment arrives, when he finishes inside her, her body doesn't register it as a physical event. It registers it as a trust signal. Something in her biological wiring reads it as, he chose to be completely unguarded with me, not a performance. Not a curated version of himself. The most uncontrolled, unfiltered moment a man has, and she was the one he had it with. Her system responds to that with something ancient. Something that doesn't go through the logical mind at all. It settled somewhere deep and quiet, lower than emotion. Not romantic feeling, something older. Like something that had been hovering nearby finally came to rest and decided to stay. Not because of a conversation. Not because of a grand gesture. Because of a moment that couldn't be faked. Women who've experienced this describe it the same way every single time. It wasn't about what he said. It was about what his body couldn't control, and that he let that happen with her specifically. Her nervous system translates your most unguarded second into the highest trust signal it knows how to receive. Pull her in closer after. Say her name, not a compliment, not a recap of what just happened. Her name. Quietly. Like you're anchoring yourself to her. She will know exactly what you chose to do in that moment, and she'll remember which option you picked. If someone had explained to a previous partner what was actually happening in those seconds instead of what he assumed, that it was just a physical event with a logical conclusion, things might have ended differently. Because he had all the right moments. He just didn't know what they meant. Everything has been building toward this last one. The one that changes how she thinks about you permanently. Asterisco point number 1, the settling, when she stops calculating and simply knows, this is the one. The settling. The moment where everything she's been quietly managing, the self-monitoring, the wondering, the careful evaluation running in the background, goes completely silent. Not because she decided to let it go. Because the answer finally arrived clearly enough that the questions stopped having anywhere to live. This doesn't happen from physical intensity. It happens from accumulated presence. From feeling genuinely seen throughout the moment. From the trust that built in the minutes before and the seconds after. And when he finishes inside her with all of that already in place, her body stops questioning and starts knowing. Every woman has had dozens of intimate moments. The number that triggered a real settling, the kind that stays, she could name them individually. The difference was never technique. It was never performance. It was whether she felt like he was actually there. Or just going through something he needed to complete. Here's the story that almost didn't get told. Everything about a particular night was real. Not impressive, real. And when the moment arrived, what landed first wasn't sensation. It was clarity. Like static that had been running quietly for weeks suddenly stopped. The eyes filled, not dramatically, just suddenly, and the face turned because what just happened in the chest felt too private to show. But internally, something had already settled. And it never fully unsettled after that. That's what the settling is. She stops choosing and starts knowing. You cannot engineer it. But you can make room for it by doing one thing, being actually present. Not a version of present. Not a performance of connection. Just there. In your own body. With your eyes on her. Without disappearing into the release. The men who trigger the settling aren't doing more. They're doing less. They've stopped managing the moment and started inhabiting it. And she feels that distinction in a way she can't fully explain but can't misread either. Asterisco. Now the hard part, everything described above, the unraveling, the read, the shadow, the anchor, the settling, can be erased in under 3 seconds by one thing. Everything was right. The unraveling had started. The read had come back with a good result. The body was moving toward the anchor. And then, it was done. An exhale. A roll onto the back. A comment with all the emotional weight of someone finishing a meal they'd ordered online. Something casual. Something self-contained. Something that made it clear the experience had a clean ending point. And something in the chest went cold. Not hurt. Not angry. Empty. Like a circuit quietly closing. Everything that had been building, every wall that was coming down, every moment of real softness that had been developing, reversed instantly. The nervous system that had been opening just sealed itself back up. Completely. Automatically. Not as a choice. As a reflex. That's the checkout. The moment she realizes that his experience was entirely contained within himself. That she wasn't a participant in something mutual. She was the setting for something personal. And her body, which had been in the process of deciding to trust him more deeply, reversed that process in the span of one exhale and one careless sentence. Here's the entire instruction, condensed: stay, physically, emotionally, attentionally. Stay present for 60 seconds past the moment your body wants to disengage. That 60 seconds is the entire variable between a man she remembers warmly and a man she cannot stop thinking about. Asterisco before the wrap. 4 things that apply every single time. These are the things women say to each other privately and wish they could just hand directly to the men in their lives. Asterisco 1. The first 30 seconds after matter more than everything that came before. She decides what the whole experience meant during those 30 seconds. Not during. After. Asterisco 2. Silence after intimacy is not awkward space. It is the intimacy. Talking immediately is evaluation. Silence is closeness. Let it exist without rushing to fill it. Asterisco 3. If she goes quiet, she's not retreating. She's processing something larger than she expected. The correct response is not to fill the quiet, it's to hold her closer while the quiet does its work. Asterisco 4. This is what she means every time she says she wants to feel close to you. Not a conversation. Not a gesture. This. You, present, not going anywhere, letting the moment be what it is. Asterisco 5. Things happening inside her the moment it ends, the unraveling, armor she didn't choose to remove, falling anyway. The read, scanning your face for proof you're still actually there. Desado, fear of loss arriving inside a moment of warmth. The anchor, her body marking you as trustworthy without asking her brain. The settling, the moment she stops evaluating and simply knows. And the checkout, the single behavior that dismantles all 5 in seconds. These aren't techniques. They're not scripts. They're the emotional landscape she's already navigating every single time. You're not learning manipulation. You're finally understanding what she's been feeling while you had no idea it was even happening. If someone asked tonight, what's the one thing I should actually know, here's the answer. Stay present through the moment, eyes on her, not closed, not distant. Afterward, don't pull away and don't reach for your phone. Let the silence be intimate instead of treating it like a problem. If she goes quiet, move closer. Say her name. That's 4 things. And they change everything. Stop treating this moment like a finish line. Start treating it like the moment she quietly decides who you are to her. Every man she's ever been with was focused on what happened. The one she still thinks about was focused on what she felt. You understand that now? And she is going to feel the difference, immediately. Which one landed the hardest for you? Which moment made you realize what she was carrying while you had no idea? Comment below. Every single one gets read. Subscribe, because this is only the beginning of what's worth saying.